How to Train Your Mind to Achieve Success, by Tracy. 1. He saboteur of success. Destructive criticism is one of the most harmful of all human behavior. It lowers self-esteem, creates a poor self-image, and undermines the individual's performance in everything he or she attempts. Destructive criticism shakes the individual's self-confidence so that he or she feels inferior, tenses up, and makes mistakes whenever he or she attempts anything for which he or she has been criticized in the past. The individual may give up trying at all and simply avoid the area of endeavor altogether. The average parent criticizes his or her children as many as 8 times every time he or she praises them. Parents criticize their children unthinkingly in an attempt to get them to improve their behavior. But exactly the opposite occurs. Because destructive criticism undermines the child's self-esteem and weakens his or her self-concept, effectiveness decreases rather than increases. The child's performance gets worse, not better. Destructive criticism makes the individual fed incompetent and inadequate. He or she feels angry and defensive and wants to strike back or escape. Performance nosedives. All sorts of negative consequences occur. Especially, the relationship between the parent and child deteriorates. Children who are criticized for their schoolwork soon develop a negative association between schoolwork and how they feel about themselves. They begin to hate it and avoid it whenever possible. They see schoolwork as a source of pain and frustration. And because of the laws of attraction and correspondence, they begin to associate with other children with the same attitudes. Often people make the mistake of thinking they are giving constructive criticism when they are really just tearing the other person down and calling it constructive to rationalize their behavior. True constructive criticism leaves the person feeling better and more capable of doing a better job in the future. LF criticism doesn't improve performance by increasing the individual's feelings of self-esteem and self-efficacy, then it has merely been a destructive act of self-expression carried out against someone who is not in a position to resist. Destructive criticism lies at the root of many personality problems and of much hostility between individuals. It leaves a trail of broken spirits, demoralization, anger, resentment, self-doubt, and a host of negative emotions. When children are criticized at an early age, they soon learn to criticize themselves. They run themselves down, sell themselves short, and interpret their experiences in a negative way. They continually feel, "I'm not good enough," no matter how hard they work or how well they do. The whole purpose of criticism, if you must give it, is performance improvement. It is to help the other person to be better as a result. Constructive criticism is not done for revenge. It is not a vehicle to express your displeasure or anger. Its purpose is to help, not hurt, or you should refrain from using it at all. Here are 7 steps you can follow to ensure that what you are giving is constructive feedback rather than destructive criticism. First, protect the individual's self-esteem at all costs. Treat it like a balloon, with your words as potential needles. Be gentle. With my children, I always begin the process of correction with the words "I love you very much," and then I go on to give them the feedback and guidance they require to be better. Second, focus on the future, not the past. Don't cry over spilled milk. Talk about what do we do from here. Use words like "nap time, why don't you?" Third, focus on the behavior or the performance, not the person. Replace the word "you" with a description of the problem. Instead of saying, "You are not selling enough," instead say, Your sales figures are below what we expect. What can we do to get them up? Fourth, use I messages to retain ownership of your feelings. Instead of saying, "You make me very angry," instead say, "I feel very angry when you do that," or, "I am not happy about this situation and I would like to discuss how we could change it." Fifth, get dear agreement on what is to change, when, and by how much. Be specific as well as future-oriented and solution-oriented. Say things like, "In the future, it's important that you keep accurate notes and double-check before you make shipments." Final. Sixth, offer to help. Ask, "What can I do to help you in this situation?" Be prepared to show the person what to do and how to do it. As a parent, or if you are in a position of authority, one of your key jobs is to be a teacher. You can't expect another to do something different without instructing that person on how it is to be done. Seventh, assume that the other person wants to do a good job. And that, if he or she has done a poor job or made a mistake, it was not deliberate. The problem is limited skill, incomplete information, or a misunderstanding of some kind. Be calm, patient, supportive, sensitive, dear and constructive rather than angry or destructive. Build the person up rather than tearing him or her down. There's probably no faster way for you to build self-esteem and self-efficacy in others than by immediately ceasing all destructive criticism. You will notice the difference at once in all your relationships. Negative habit patterns. There are two major negative habit patterns that we all learn in childhood. There are those that push you forward and those that hold you back. They affect everything you think, feel, and do. They control and determine your destiny in life, and you are only vaguely aware of them. They are called the inhibitive and the campus we. Understanding their impact in your life and learning how to counteract their influence on your behavior is absolutely indispensable to your achieving the kind of success and happiness that is possible for you. The inhibit we negative habit pattern is learned when the child is told over and over again, "Don't get away from that. Stop that. Don't touch. Watch out." The child's natural impulse is to touch, taste, smell, feel and explore every part of his or her world. When the parents react to the child's exploratory behavior by shouting, by becoming upset, by spanking the child or with some other form of disapproval, the child is not old enough to understand what is going on. Instead, the child internalizes the message that every time I try something new or different, mommy or daddy gets mad at me and stops loving me. It must be because I'm too small, I'm incompetent, I'm incapable, I can't. This feeling that I can't soon crystallizes into the fear of failure. And form of failure is the greatest single obstacle to success in adult life. The fear of failure wells up inside you whenever you think of taking any kind of risk or doing anything new or different involving any risk of loss of time, money, or emotion.
In my own case, because I had done poorly in school, I feared that I wasn't smart enough to do much better than I was doing. When I saw other people around me wheeling and dealing and taking risks and getting into and out of jobs and business deals, I just looked away. One assumed they had attributes of intelligence and daring that one lacked. When I was a child, because one had been brought up to fear whippings from my father, I was afraid of bullies on the playground. When one got into selling, one was afraid of cold calls. When I got into management, I was afraid of asserting myself. When I made a little money, I was afraid of investing, and when I had the chance, I was afraid of starting my own business, for fear I would fail and lose my investment. My parents had been fearful and they brought me up fearfully. They did a good job. It was only later when I learned that my fears were all in my men that there was nothing to be afraid of, that my real life began. You experience all negative habit patterns in your body. When you are in the grip of a negative habit pattern, you fed and react exactly as if you were in danger of physical harm. And the place you feel the inhibitive negative habit pattern, the fear of failure, is down the front of your body, starting in your solar plexus and spreading from there. If, for example, you were afraid of public speaking and you were told that you were going to be called up in front of a large audience, your first reaction would be a feeling of weakness, of fright in your solar plexus, the emotional center of your body. And the more you thought about the upcoming event, the more the fear would spread. Your heart would start beating faster. You would begin breathing more rapidly and with shallower breaths. Your throat might go dry, and you might get a pounding in the front part of your head, similar to a migraine headache. Your bladder might also fill up, and you would have an irresistible urge to run to the bathroom. You would react as if you were about to get a spanking. All these physical manifestations of the inhibitive negative habit pattern are usually programmed into your subconscious mind before you are 6 years old. Negative habit patterns also trigger feelings of anxiety and nervousness, accompanied by perspiration, rapid heartbeat, and emotional responses such as irritation, impatience, and angry outbursts. The more deeply entrenched the negative habit pattern, the more extreme will be your reaction to the situation. You learn the fear of failure, of inhibition, characterized by the words, I can't, in 3 different ways. First, you learn it by repeated association with a particular event, coupled with destructive criticism or physical punishment. If a child is spanked every time he or she touches the piano, he or she will eventually develop a conditioned response of fear that can be triggered by the very thought of playing a piano. A doctor in my seminar told me how he was beaten by an alcoholic father when he was a child. The father would jump up from his chair without warning and hit the boy. Now, 50 years later, if the doctor even sees someone on television jump up quickly, his whole body reacts exactly as if he's about to be attacked. His solar plexus tightens up. His heart rate jumps. He begins to perspire. He shakes all over. This is a conditioned response caused by childhood trauma, and he will probably never get over it. Second, you can learn a negative habit pattern as the result of subtle negative influences that you may not be aware of. Some people accept criticism of themselves unquestioningly as if they were actually true. Others believe the negative qualities described in their horoscopes. Some people do things poorly the first time and conclude they have no aptitude in that area. The important thing for you to do is to continually ask yourself, what if I had the capacity to be really good in that area? Then, assume that you do have the inherent ability and go to work on yourself. When you begin casting off the bonds of your self-limiting beliefs and fears, you'll find that there are very few obstacles in front of you. They're almost all in your automatic responses. The third way you can learn a negative habit pattern or fearful response is as the result of a single traumatic event of some kind. One particularly frightening experience, such as almost drowning or falling as a child, can give you an irrational fear of water. or heights for life. The very thought of doing that particular thing triggers in you a form of paralysis. Sometimes these fears are called phobias, and they can be progressive. One negative experience continually dwelled upon and relived can become a major fear that affects much of your life and seriously interferes with your happiness. The key word here is irrational. The situation triggers feelings of extreme anxiety and you become angry about it, but you don't know why. The very thought of it upsets you and interferes with your work or your relationships. One of your requirements for becoming a positive person is to clear your mental decks, to blow out your subconscious tubes, and this requires that you identify and deal with any fears that could be holding you back. Talk out your fears with a good friend or spouse. Others often can see things that you can't. Consult a psychologist or psychiatrist. If necessary, a professional therapist can often help you to free yourself of mental obstacles that have been blocking your progress for years. The second major type of negative habit pattern that children learn is the compulsive. The compulsive negative habit pattern is learned by the child when he or she is told over and over again, "You'd better, or else." Parents say, if you don't do, or stop doing something or other, you are in big trouble. To the child, trouble with parents always means the withdrawal of love and approval. When parents make their love additional upon the child's performance or behavior, the child soon internalizes the message that 1 I am not loved and therefore I am not safe until and unless I do what pleases my mommy and daddy. Therefore, I have to do what pleases them. I have to do what makes them happy. I have to do what they want. I have to. This compulsive negative habit pattern develops when parents make their love conditional rather than unconditional. It manifests itself in the tilt of rejection. And the fear of rejection is the second major reason for failure and underachievement in adult life. If you were raised with conditional love, you can tell because of the way you feel as an adult. You will be overly concerned, if not obsessed, with the opinions of others, especially with the opinions of your parents, spouse, boss, or friends. The word is overly. It's normal and natural to be considerate of the thoughts and feelings of others. It is this concern for and respect for people's opinions that serves as the glue that holds society together. Otherwise, we would have chaos.
But carried to an extreme, like all fears, it can be paralyzing. It can reach the point where people are incapable of making a decision for themselves until they have received approval from someone else. We need and strive for the respect of other people, but superior people, self-actualizing men and women have sufficient confidence in themselves to consider the opinions of others and then make their own decisions based on what they feel is right for them. Remember, we're all afraid. We especially fear criticism and disapproval. We will go to great lengths to earn the goodwill and acceptance of people we look up to. We will make sacrifices of all kinds to be liked. Soldiers will even risk their lives not to let others down. But you need to be constantly aware of this insidious influence. It can, as Francis Bacon wrote, make a man who can in no way be true to his own ends. In each situation in which the opinions of others are involved, ask yourself, what do I really want to do? What would make me the happiest? Then make your decisions for the person who is going to have to live with them yourself. The compulsive negative habit pattern is experienced physically. in the form of tension in the neck and shoulders and pain in the lower back. It is usually manifested whenever you fed overloaded, under the gun, or when you have too much to do and too little time. These physical pains are a major result of stress and overwork. They can lead to serious psychosomatic illnesses. Women tend to manifest the fear of rejection in depression, withdrawal, and physical symptoms. Men tend to manifest this compulsive negative habit pattern in what is called type A behavior. This behavior usually stems from the relationship between the father and the son, or the father and the daughter. It is caused by the feeling of the child that he or she never got the proper quality and quantity of love from his or her father. For men, this unconscious striving for love from their fathers is transferred, in adult life, to the boss in the workplace. Type A behavior is then manifested as an over-concern for the approval of the boss. In extreme cases, this can cause a man to become obsessive about his work, even to the point of ruining his health and his family. I remember when my father died, I took it very badly. I felt that I had never been able to get it right, that I had never done the things necessary to get his complete love and acceptance. 2 years after his death, I still felt a great sense of loss and emptiness whenever I thought about him. Then, one evening, I took my mother out to dinner and shared my feelings with her. She was surprised and told me that I had no reason to be sad or upset. She explained that my father had never had very much love to give to anyone. Because of his childhood and early experiences, he had very little love for himself, and therefore very little for his children, including me. She told me that there was nothing that I could have done to get more love than I got. Over time, I have found that most men who suffer from type behavior are still trying to earn the love and respect of their fathers. But what I learned after my father died was that, whatever love you get, or got, from your father, that was all he had to give. There is nothing that you could have done and nothing that you can do now, to change it. Once you understand and accept that, you can relax a little and then get on with the rest of your life. Me self-concept in business. Every group of people, from a couple to a large organization, forms a self-concept. It is the overall personality of the people when they're together, or when they think of themselves as part of a larger whole. It can be called morale, or the culture, but it is much more. It is the general psychological tone of the organization. Above all, it is how happy the individuals are as part of the larger group. It is how proud and confident they feel, or don't feel, in their membership in the greater entity. Each couple has a self-concept. It is the way they see themselves and feel about themselves when they are together. It's expressed in the amount they laugh together, or don't laugh. Couples and families with positive self-concepts are happy and enthusiastic about each other and about being together. Couples and families with negative self-concepts are characterized by constant complaining, criticizing, and arguing. Corporations have self-concepts as well, as does each department or human grouping within the corporation, right down to the personality of the cleanup crew that comes in after hours. The self-concept of a business is made up of 3 basic ingredients. The first, the self-ideal, is a combination of the vision, values, ethics and mission of the organization. Wherever these are clear and positive and committed to by top management, the people in the company is happier, more positive, and more confident about themselves and where they're going. One of the most profound and unavoidable responsibilities of management or parents is to clearly articulate this self-ideal, and then to embody their values in their behavior toward others, to repeatedly tell others what they stand for and believe in, and then lead by example. The second ingredient of the company's self-concept is the collective self-image. This is the way the company's management and employees see themselves and think about themselves. This self-image is largely determined by how well they feel they are doing their job and performing their functions. It is especially affected by the quality of their products and services, and by the way they feel they are perceived in the marketplace by their customers and suppliers. When I work with companies whose sales are up, whose market share is growing, and whose profits are respectable, everyone seems happy, outgoing, and confident. When I deal with companies that are struggling, in the marketplace or for internal reasons, the employees are often like members of a team that is losing too many games. They are unhappy, unsure, and negative about their prospects. They take it out on each other by criticizing, complaining, and backbiting. One of the jobs of the executive or team leader is to keep people's spirits up by continually telling them how good they are. Everyone looks upward for guidance on how to interpret what's happening. The executive's job is to keep morale high by putting the best possible spin on events and by keeping people focused on the possibilities of the future, rather than the problems of the past. The final ingredient of the organization's self-concept, self-esteem, is the sum total of the ideals of the corporation, the current performance of the organization, and how well each person feels he or she is being treated by superiors and co-workers.